Hey everyone, welcome to this week's second video lecture. Today's lecture will be on the solar system. This should be a review, as you should have covered these topics in previous grades, maybe 6th grade, 7th grade. But I really want to just go over the basics, how the solar system was formed, some of the planets and structures that make up the solar system. That way, next week when we get into class, we'll have a basic understanding of the solar system. That way we can just jump in right into Unit 1 and start talking about Earth. So let's get started on today's video. So our solar system was formed from a large cloud of gas and dust called a nebula about 4.5 to 5 billion years ago. What happened was this star started to collapse on itself. As it started to collapse on itself, the internal temperatures of that gas cloud, of that dust cloud, began to increase more and more. Atoms within that cloud started to come together and fuse together in a process called fusion. The energy created by this nuclear fusion was so massive that it led to the creation of our star, which we call the sun. It is at the center of our universe. Most of you know that, or not the center of our universe, center of our solar system, and all the 8 planets revolve around the sun. So as the sun began to form, so did the planets that we know today. So the inner planets, how they formed was dust began to gather around the forming sun in a disk shape. Soon the dust and other particles within that large disk started to clump together, forming rocky planets with iron cores. We call these small rocky planets terrestrial planets, meaning that they are Earth-like. The 4 terrestrial / inner planets are Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars. The outer planets formed a little bit differently. And I'm going to move my head once again. Try to jam pack these PowerPoints so much with pictures that my head gets in the way. So the outer planets, the gases that were in that nebula when the sun was forming were blown away because the sun was producing lots of wind. It was throwing off a lot of energy, and it blew off the gas, and this gas settled far away. There were rocky formations forming very far away from the sun, and the gas that was blown away by the sun kind of settled around these planets to form massive gas giants. And the 4 gas giants that are in our solar system are Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. So let's talk about the inner planets. So the first inner planet is Mercury. Mercury is the smallest inner planet. It is very hot, obviously, because it's the closest planet to the sun. Venus is similar in size to Earth. It's often called Earth's twin. It has a dense, hot atmosphere full of greenhouse gases that trap the sun's rays within its atmosphere, making it very, very hot. And biomolecules were actually recently discovered in Venus's atmosphere. This doesn't mean that there's necessarily life on Venus, but the formation of these molecules hint that there could have been at one point life on Venus. They don't know for sure. They're obviously going to do more research, so maybe read about that online. It's pretty interesting. Earth, obviously we're very familiar with Earth, only planet known to support life, and we have a very large moon. Mars, which is the final inner planet, it's red due to its iron oxide crust. Iron oxide is rust. It has a thin atmosphere made of carbon dioxide, and it actually has 2 very small moons. And here, I'll move my head again. Here are the 4 inner planets. Notice how they range inside, Earth being the largest, Venus being the second largest, but there's not much difference between Earth and Venus. Mars being much smaller than both Earth and Venus, and Mercury being the smallest of the bunch. And if you notice, Mercury kind of looks a lot like Earth's moon. And the reason it looks similar to our moon is because it barely has an atmosphere to protect it from asteroids, meteors, things like that. All right, now moving on to the outer planets. So the first outer planet is Jupiter. Jupiter is the largest planet in our solar system. It has 66 moons, and it's mostly made of gases. Saturn is the second largest planet. It has a complex ring system and has at least 60 moons. Uranus is mostly made of gas, ice, and rock, and it rotates almost parallel to its orbit, meaning that when you look at Venus, it looks like it's rotating on its side. Earth is tilted, Uranus is very tilted. And finally, Neptune. It is the last planet in the solar system. It's furthest away from the sun. It has 13 moons and several rings. And here are the gas giants. You can see Jupiter is the largest. If you've noticed that little red spot down there, that is a massive hurricane that's been raging for hundreds of years. Then you have Saturn with its complex ring system. And you have Uranus and Neptune, which look very similar. All right, and finally, let's talk about some other objects that can be found in our solar system. So the first thing that we can find in our solar system is dwarf planets. So these are small terrestrial bodies, so rocky, that orbit the sun. The thing with these dwarf planets is their gravity is not strong at all, and they're not strong enough to clear the areas around them. They're not strong enough to dominate and pull things in with their gravity. But they're also not moons, they're not satellites. And the most well-known dwarf planet is Pluto. Obviously, Pluto used to be a planet in 2006. They changed that. The reason is because Pluto is kind of just mixed in with a bunch of other rocky structures in a region beyond Neptune's orbit called the Kuiper Belt. It's just not strong enough to clear the area around it, so we classify it as a dwarf planet. Other objects that can be found in our solar system are asteroids. Asteroids are huge chunks of a regular shaped rock, and most asteroids are located in the asteroid belt, which is between Mars and Jupiter. All right, so the final objects in our solar system that we are going to discuss are comets. And comets are objects that are made of dust, frozen gases, and ice that orbit the sun. They're different than asteroids because comets produce their signature trail, which is produced by the sun vaporizing some of the frozen gases and ice that are in the comet. And then the solar wind kind of sweeps the vaporized ice and dust and produces a long trail, which we all recognize comets by. All right, so that is the solar system in a nutshell. I have one more video that I want you guys to watch after you conclude this video. I also have a brief quiz that I want you to do. And this video and the video after this will help you on that. And then on Friday, we're going to dive into planet Earth. So I look forward to seeing you guys on Thursday. Have a good rest of your weekend or beginning of your first few days of your week. And I'll see you in class.